Love is always present, like the air you breathe. September 14, 2015. We are one, there is no separation. Deep within you know that, and we here in the spiritual realms have been reminding you of this regularly for a very long time. Modern physics knows it, but does not wish to state it quite so simply because it would appear to show that physicists have discovered the existence of God and must therefore become believers. That is something the vast majority of them are not yet ready to admit to. The evidence is clear, very clear, but these physicists are focusing on far more important issues. They are still seeking the smallest and most basic particles in the universe via the Large Hadron Collider in Geneva, and yet reality is infinitely vast. Meanwhile, their spiritual thoughts are kept private and, if possible, left undisturbed. However, the human collective is way ahead of the game here, because so many books, articles, and documentaries have shown irrefutably that humans are far more than chemical reactions and electromagnetic impulses in the brain. The reality of spirit has been demonstrated again and again, and only those who have chosen to remain in denial of the truth of this refuse to admit it. Denial is used because this truth is terrifying for many, and it enables them to dismiss the possibility of spirit as wishful thinking by those who are afraid of death, while themselves maintaining an air of nonchalance about the shocking brevity and seeming lack of meaning of an individual human life. But of course life is never ending, it is eternal, as you well know, and the illusory state of existence you experience as humans on Earth is but a brief dream or nightmare from which you are shortly to awaken. Signs of humanity's awakening are evident all across the world as love, shelter, food, and resettling assistance is offered again and again to immigrants fleeing repressive regimes and war zones. Yes, humanity is most definitely very close to awakening, and nothing and no one can prevent it from happening. You, the light holders and light workers who read this and other channeled messages from the spiritual realms, absolutely know this and are doing essential work in bringing it about. And that work is simply your constant intent to be loving in every moment of your lives. The flood of love that you are creating and extending is, like reality, vast. When doubts arise for you as a result, for instance, of mainstream news reports of the intolerable suffering of so many due to war and other man-made atrocities, or due to extreme weather, fire, earthquakes or volcanic activity, remind yourselves of the work you are doing and of its inevitable success. Then, once more, strengthen your intent to send love to all those on your lovely planet who are in need and who are suffering, because that is the most powerful and effective thing you can do, and it is most powerful because it is the will of God being put into practice by all of you. As I said above, all are one. Therefore helping another is helping yourself. However, the illusion, the realm of the ego, strongly suggests that taking care of the self to the exclusion of others is the only sane way to live, while perhaps offering a certain amount of compassion and charity to others if it does not demand too much of your personal limited resources. The reasoning behind that attitude, apart from a strong belief in the reality of the illusion, is the fear of scarcity that is separation and the ensuing lack of love experienced in that state. As you have been told so often, there is only love, because God is love, and all that exists is contained within God, who is the infinitely vast reality, the energy field from which all life flows, the source. So each and every sentient being is the same as God, just as every individual drop of water anywhere on the planet is identical to all the rivers, lakes, and oceans combined. There is no difference between them. Of course, the planet's water has been severely contaminated in many places, but it is still water, much as humanity's attitudes have been contaminated by its apparent separation from source, and so the purity of love seems lacking. As guardians of planet Earth, humanity is responsible for cleaning up the damage it has caused and restoring it to its natural state. More and more of you are becoming aware of this grave responsibility and are taking steps to do so. That is love in action. Love, your natural state, cannot be contained, but it has been hidden or denied and then forgotten, because of your choice to experience separation from God and therefore from one another. When love is absent, great fear arises and peace is impossible between either individuals or nations. Psychology being but a recent advance in starting to understand the basic essential non-physical needs of humans, learned that self-respect and self-acceptance are essential aspects of a well-balanced and healthy individual. In other words, to love oneself is essential for good health. When an individual truly loves the self with which it identifies, that love then flows outwards to embrace all life, and that is your path to awakening. Psychology is really only following along behind the ongoing human awakening process and observing its effects. Yes, it can be very helpful to those trapped in fear, loathing, and self-hatred, helping them to see that those deeply ingrained beliefs are utterly unwarranted, and by then assisting them to open themselves to the fact that they deserve and are entitled to love. However, it is due to the ever-increasing intensity of the power of the tsunami of love that your work is causing that is bringing humanity rapidly forward to its most gloriously anticipated moment of awakening. Love is always present, like the air you breathe, but you all have the choice to accept or reject it, and the numbers now openly accepting and indeed embracing it are increasing daily, bringing humanity to the tipping point, the point at which the collective, having already chosen to awaken, remembers that choice, and releases its hold on the illusion. It is rather as though someone who is drowning, because they are holding on to some heavy artifact they dearly value and have carried with them from a sinking ship, suddenly lets go of it because they can no longer breathe, and, released from their burden, rockets to the surface and fills their lungs with desperately needed air. Then realization finally dawns that only life has lasting value. Rejoice therefore in the knowledge that the life force that powers your human vehicles is love, that it is indeed eternal, and that it can never be snuffed out. Your loving brother, Jesus. Channeled by John Smallman. johnsmallman2.wordpress.com